Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode, 52 Authors, 52 Weeks. Today, I am joined by Devin D'Jwan, author of, you got to check out this title, Negative Orientation, Breaking Through the Programming. Hello, Devin D'Jwan.
Hey, how you doing?
I am wonderful, wonderful. So why don't you tell our listening, viewing audience a little bit about you? I read some things about you on the back of the book that was surprising to me and similar to me. So it was good to see it, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But tell our listening, viewing audience who you are, who you serve, all that good stuff.
Well, I am a certified fitness trainer and a certified stretch therapist. I've been doing fitness training for about a little over 8 years and stretch therapy a little over 3 years. And I literally serve people who are, looking to correct imbalances in their body, correct posture, maybe muscular imbalances. Also, people who have pain, stiffness, tightness. My whole job is to be able to release the muscle because sometimes our muscles lock up. Let's say we're sitting at the computer for a long period of time or doing repetitive movements for a long period of time. All of that can cause some strenuous activity, and then that strenuous activity, turns into pain within the body. So my job is to alleviate that or eliminate that. And I've also dabbled in other different things too. I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm always looking to see what's out there. I'm always interested in different things, always looking for different perspectives.
I love it. So I have to tell you something funny. So when I met you, we were at let's just call it a health and wellness fair, right? And so you were during the health and wellness fair, were offering some stretching, and people were a little, I don't know, reluctant to do it, right? Because it's like we're out in the open.
Yeah.
And so that following week was my 51st birthday. And yep.
Happy related. Okay.
Thank you. And so my husband was like, what do you want to do? Right. So it was like kind of like spur of the moment. I was like, let's go to that stretch lab because I saw a guy doing it. It's like one right down the street from us.
Yeah.
And I was a little nervous because it was out in the open with all the people. However, the therapist that worked with me has a background similar to yours. And when I got up, I really felt looser, right? And I actually felt like some things were moving around. I haven't been back because, life is kind of getting in the way. However, I am going to go back soon because as an older menopausal woman, things aren't moving the way that they used to move, right? I used to be able to just jump out of the bed in the morning. Well, I take that back. Most mornings I am still able to jump out because I think mindset plays a huge role. But sometimes there are some mornings where I'm like, I think it also helps I get up during the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. So my body is constantly moving. But my metabolism, right, is not as it used to be. And as a person who has struggled with obesity, I'm not going to say my entire life, but I've always been like in kindergarten, I was the big person, the taller person, thicker person. And genetically, my family has hips and butt, right? I mean, if you look at my mom, my aunts, my grandmother, it's to some extent genetic, but it's also to some extent what you put in here and what you don't do with this. And as a person who works in healthcare, I have a standing desk. I try not to sit down a whole lot because, the muscle can get stiff. And if I'm drinking my water, I'm going to the bathroom, so I'm continuing to move. And I got this thing here to keep me honest, right? Lets me know how many I've done, how many I need to do. But I could do better. And I think it has to do with the programming. So why did you write this book?
You know, Dr. Lisa, funny thing. This started as I've been through a lot of my life, and I say, you know what? I've come far. I want to kind of just write this out, like get this out, things that I've learned in the journey. And it just started as a journal.
Wait a minute. Men journal the shade.
I've always been a writer. I've been a writer since I was, young, and I didn't feel like I had a voice when I was young, so that was my way of expressing myself. It was either through writing or through art, sketching, drawing things like that. But I journaled, and I was like, man, dude, you really overcame some things, and I didn't put it all in the book.
Mm.
That would be too much to put it into one book, but it was just like a testament to, man, okay, I've overcame this thing, I've accomplished a lot. Let me write the journal. But then I said, wait a minute, this isn't for me. That's selfish. This isn't for me. I can actually do something for somebody else. I can make this for somebody else if they've been through what I've been through. And I started writing it, and I had this old habit of starting things but not finishing them. And so as I
Mm.
told people, they like, oh, okay, here he goes again, right? But I was dead set. I was locked in, like, I'm going to do this. And I would get off my shift 10, 12 hours, depending on how long I was working that day. And I get to it, typing and writing, throwing stuff out, typing and writing it. It literally, I want to say it took me about 7 months, 7 months to get it all done. And I was like, all right, now what? Well, it can't just be a book that's sitting here collecting dust, oh, yeah, this is the manuscript. No, I need to go through, get it edited, get it published, get it out there. And man, 2021 October, it was done, it was completed, it was released to the world. So I was excited about that.
I love it. So something you said really just kind of came to mind for me as I am continuing to grow. You talked about the struggle with writing the book and putting it on paper. And one of the things I will share with our listening, viewing audience, when I wrote my book, I did not sit at the typewriter and, oh, wait, I said typewriter. I'm definitely showing my age, right? I didn't sit at the computer and type it initially. It actually started as me sitting at the computer with my microphone, something that I'm sitting at, with every day, and just talking to the Zoom room, and the Zoom was capturing my words, right? And then I found out, oh, Microsoft Word, if you open up Microsoft Word, there's a little dictate button. You just click it and it types what you say. And so you talk about how your book, the contents wasn't for you, it was for others. As I started to speak the words, cry the words, right, and see them flash across the screen, what was happening was I was shedding all of these old feelings and hurts from myself so that I can help somebody else. And the more I would write, read, cry, all of those things, I started to get in alignment with my purpose. And I started to have this peace that you can't even pay for, right? Where I am today is such a place of peace that if you would have asked me 2 years ago, had I seen that I would be here? Absolutely not. But as they say at McDonald's, I'm loving it. I don't really like McDonald's. But I'm loving where I'm at. But I'm a work in progress. I'm not perfect. And on the back of the book, you talk about how you've dealt with obesity, financial ruin. I can identify with those two areas because as an entrepreneur, you're taking risk. And sometimes you're like, okay, this bill is due on the 1st. However, there's something I want to do for my business, which I believe in me is going to result in this benefit. So you take that risk. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't work out. But I don't know about you, but for me, I'd rather take the risk than to be regretting that I didn't do the thing, right? Oftentimes, my family members in the past, talk about programming, were like, you work, you retire, you travel, not work and travel simultaneously. Because when you get older, there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to do all the things, right? And so I think doing them now simultaneously helps support you in that later life, later year, right? Because you program your body to be moving. And a lot of times people retire and they kind of just sit down, they do nothing. And that is not going to be my story. So let's talk a little bit about the book. And on the back, I like how you talk about you had some great self-reflection. What was that like?
Um, so I always talk about self-reflection and introspection. Sometimes, okay, let me be honest. Most times we're programmed to go outside of ourselves. Everything is geared towards the external, but there's a lot of things going on inside. And what we do is we tend to negate that. We tend to overlook that instead of actually going inside and sitting with that to understand it more. And when I say sitting with that, I mean, sitting with your inner self, sitting with your, spirit self, um, gaining inner standing, right? And so I had to go inside and I had to ask myself a lot of hard questions. And I did not like the answers, you know.
Oh,
But when you actually address it instead of running away, and I had a fear of missing out, and I had escapism. I was practicing escapism. I was an escape artist. Unfortunately, I never made it to any, type of Las Vegas show to be a magician. Uh, but I was always trying to escape things instead of address things. And so now,
mm.
when I learned the power of self-reflection, even though it hurts in the short term, you addressing it right then and there helps to set up for a better long term, you know?
Wow, when you said understanding, that was powerful because I think if you're not aware of who you are internally, it impacts you externally and it impacts how you communicate with others. You know that old saying that hurt people hurt people?
Yes.
And I think that's part of that lack of inner peace, lack of inner understanding that people are missing. And that's why I love journaling. I love reflecting. I love reading because they all just kind of take me to places internally that a lot of times, and I have to be honest, and I say this a lot, I do a lot of, I'm in the tub and I just start to reflect and I cry. I'm in the car driving and I'm listening to an audiobook and I start to cry. But what I realize is happening is I'm peeling back all of these different layers of life that have really been holding me back. And it is helping me get into this alignment. And I wish more people would take the time to do it. And I will admit, I was on this hamster wheel while I was working a job, working my business, doing all these things, right? I had lost all this weight and it was going good, but I failed to work on some of the inner things. And so now I got on that scale recently and I was like, whoa, whoa, and whoa. But what I did not do this time like I've done in the past, is be upset with myself. It happened. So now what are you going to do about it to get back on the right track, right? What are the things that you're not doing? So, for example, and this is crazy, when I was working a full-time job, running my business, I was exercising religiously. But now that I've cut all of those things out, I kind of just have been like, I'm not gonna say I'm like sitting around smoking a cigarette, right? Because I don't smoke. But I've been, and I think I needed this time, right? I needed this time to sit heavy so that I can have a detox, release, right? And get back into because I have a whole gym downstairs. When I say I have a whole gym, I have elliptical, treadmill, Peloton, rower, ropes, weight bench, free weights, all of this at my disposal. But I got into this point where I was like, I had to stop all this working because I was working day and night. When I say day and night, weekends, I was doing all of that. And so now I've brought myself down. I'm at peace mentally, physically, emotionally. Now I just got to go back downstairs and get on this treadmill, and you know, handle my business. But enough about that, because I don't want you to start to beat me up. Like
No
you got a
judgment, no
whole
judgment.
what downstairs? You got a whole what?
You know, my ears is perking up. I'm like, what?
Yes, yes, a whole, because you know what? I have this go big or go home mentality. And I was like, when I decided I didn't want to be, not that I didn't want to be in the gym, but I didn't have the time to physically go somewhere. It's easier for me to just roll out of bed. I'm the 5 a.m. workout person
Hmm.
because as the day gets going, I just, it's difficult for me. It's easier where I can roll out of bed, put my headphones on so I don't disturb my husband, and put my praise and worship music on and just go downstairs. I keep it dark and just go in. And it's such a place of peace. And I think because I'm so peaceful right now, I'm like, maybe that's why I'm not going downstairs. Because when I tell you I roll out of bed nowadays, I'm just like, I've always been a bubbly person, but I get out of bed every day so peaceful, so peaceful. It's
Hmm.
great, but I just gotta reprogram this other part. So let's talk about breaking through the programming, because clearly I got some programming that I need to break through so I can get back downstairs to this equipment down here.
Never go.
So let's talk about, this is one of my favorites. Save yourself from the hell you created.
Yeah, yeah.
What's that about? And we're not gonna tell them about the whole book because we want them to get their own copy of the book. But tell us a little bit about that and what you want our listening, viewing audience to know. Oh, it's about to get heavy, 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 heavy.
You know, man, talk about the self-reflection and introspection and asking those hard questions. And again, coming up with answers you really didn't like about your own self. What we tend to do is we tend to point the finger at everybody else, what everybody else did. And guess what? For the listening audience, they probably were a part of the situation. They probably were a part of your demise. They probably were a part of your downfall. But guess what? At the end of the day, you go to bed with yourself, and at the beginning of the day, you wake up to yourself. Therefore, you are accountable for you. Therefore, you got to look in the mirror and you got to address the certain flaws, the certain mistakes, you know, the certain failures, drawbacks, setbacks, whatever. You have to address that. It's on you. And what happens is when we don't, we tend to dive into all these other things. For me, I dove into partying, I dove into being promiscuous, I dove into, you know, I got to be in the club, doing all of these different things so I didn't have to address what was truly going on inside, right? And when there's a void, here, you're like, well, I got this space. I need to fill it with stuff, anything. And it's usually things that's going to be pleasurable and instantly gratifying. They call it the microwave society effect. You like, bing, it's ready, right? That's what you want. But at the same time, at the bottom of that, when you feeling it, it's just seeping out, seeping out, seeping out. So you got to constantly go through this revolving door, right? Of like always trying to fill this gap. And so you create a hell. You create a hell for yourself because now you're always, you said hamster wheel earlier. You said that phrase hamster wheel. We're always on it and we're creating this residual hell for ourselves because we're scared to address a lot of what I like to call in the book those demons, those dragons, those hydras. We are scared to address them. So once you create that hell, if you feel like, what's that movie? Oh man, can't think of the movie. Talks about the sunken place, like you go, the ladies there with the stirring the coffee
Yes.
and fall into the sunken place. That's it, and you're through. You're through.
Wow. You know what? I was just thinking about that movie too. So I'm as we're talking and as I've, you know, read through your journey, what would you say to the person that says, all right, you're right, you got me. I keep putting all these things in the box right? I keep creating this hell. What would be the one thing that you would say to help them start with the negative programming and moving towards the positive programming space? What's the one thing that helped you?
Um, what I'm into right now, that I had a lot of anger and animosity inside of myself. What is a healthy way of releasing that? Fitness training, is being able to exert this energy to get it out of you, so you don't walk around with it, right? A lot of people are just walking around with this weight on themselves because they didn't release it. Maybe they didn't get up at 5 a.m. to do that workout in their gym, and so therefore you walking around with all of this gook on you, this anger and all these things on you. So I would literally work it out. I call it exercising the demons,
Mm,
fun. Exercise or
mm.
exercise those demons, right? Because that's the thing for me that kind of kept me sane through those low points for sure. And what I would say to someone else is, when was the last time you actually did something for yourself that made you feel good about yourself, that didn't wreck yourself? Like when was the last time you truly did that? Or also, do you know who you are? Do you know who you are? And I say that in the book as well, because a lot of people, they lead with their ego. They lead. I mean, I know I did it, but when you really know who you are, the ego is always going to be there and ever present. It's there for a reason. But when you can lead with your authentic self, there's no need to put on a facade anymore. There's no need to say yes to things you truly didn't want to do anymore. There's, or go places you don't really want to go anymore. You become who you're authentically supposed to be. And if once you know who you are, man, you can you can climb any mountain, you could blast off into the stratosphere. You can start really maximizing on your life.
I love it. I love it. Once you know who you are, that's the hard part.
It's hard.
Because you know why? We got all these filters on the Snapchat and the Facebook and the Instagram, and we love to put this mask on. But behind closed doors, when we take for the women, when we take the eyelashes off and wrap our weave up and all of that, right? The person that you're looking at in the mirror, do you ever talk to that person and say, how you doing? What's up? Like, I'm constantly, and I am the person, I will tell you, I'm always got a lot of irons in the fire. And one of the things that I've started to do is to, I should say, reinstitute writing down what are all the pending things that you said you were going to do, right? You cannot add another one until you take 5 of these things off of your list, close the door, because you keep opening doors and you never close them. You don't accomplish anything, right? You're just doing all these things. And I came up with this concept, not by myself, just so you know. I read a book. I like to read. I read a book called The One Thing. And that book is awesome, isn't it?
Yes.
That one thing really, it got me together. And a lot of times when I am reading books, I'm listening to them at the same time if the audio is available. And I was just like, Lisa L. Campbell, you got to get your life together, right? And once I started down that path, it was freeing. So I know for me, I'm constantly unpacking Lisa Campbell and some things that no longer serve me. I'm packing them up and sending them away because I think, you talked about partying. And at 51, I can't tell you the last time that I went to a club. If I went to a club, it was because somebody had a party, but nothing inside of me says get dressed and go to a club. Now, howsoever, let me just set the record straight. Because a lot of times people, they look at you and they don't think that you've done the things. But let me just set the record straight. Okay, because back in the 90s, I used to go to the Click nightclub before it became E2, and we used to shut it down on ladies' night, right? I used to go to Club Ultimate Club premiere, the 50-year short time frame in my life. And that was actually back in the day when you could party, right? And have fun. But also, I think all the percolating kept me slimmer. And then when I got into my real grown person life, you work, you get tired, all of that. And so I think this journey to get the true gains has to be, see how I spend that, has to be an ongoing process where you are evaluating, reflecting internally and externally, intentionally, in order to get the true gains. So my commitment, since you came on the show, I am going to make a conscious effort, even if I just do. See, let me just tell you, I got this go big or go home mentality. I'm like, I got to get on stairs and do 60 minutes on the Peloton. How about I just start off with 10 minutes? So my commitment, and I'm gonna send you a confirmation.
Please.
This is pre-recorded. But I am going tomorrow. I am going to get on one of those pieces of equipment for at least 10 minutes because I love a challenge. So I'm challenging myself to do it because I believe that there's something waiting on me down there. A lot of times I'm on the treadmill crying. So I know something down there is waiting for me, a vision, right? But I just got to take the first step.
Yeah. Yeah. And guess what? I'm definitely gonna hold you accountable. You sign me up to be your coach. I'm like, Lisa.
Yes, yes, yes.
I say, what's going on? What you doing? And I love the fact too that you said something waiting on you down there. So one of the things I love about training is you meet your match.
Mm.
And let me explain what I mean by that is that, I'm not in competition with nobody else. I'm in competition with myself. How can I be better today than I was yesterday? And I mean, of course, we've heard that that's cliche, but literally that had to become, a part of my journey because I realized I can't keep up with other people playing their game, but I can
Mm.
play my best at my game and get even better at my game. So when I'm working out, if I'm lifting something and it's heavy and I can't lift it, I'm like, oh, it's going up. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but it's going up. And once I accomplish that, it's like, what? The thing you thought you couldn't do. Or I remember when I was, I've battled obesity a few times in life and had to overcome it at different levels. I never been able to do a pull-up. So one day, one summer, this was like 2016, I just kept dedicating myself every day. One pull-up. Next day, two pull-ups. Next day, it was just two pull-ups again. The next day after that, three. Now I just keep climbing. And then one day by the end of the summer, I was able to do 12 straight. And it was like, oh, I just got to keep showing up to do this thing, even when it hurts, even when it sucks, even when I don't want to do it. I just got to continue to show up. And then all of a sudden, bam, I could do it multiple times. When you accomplish something in the training area, in your practice area, when you go out in the real world, the things that may have, scared you off before, or the things you didn't want to address or face before, you then have the confidence and courage to say, you know what? Not today. I'm about to go ahead and
Mm.
face that. And that is why I love training, because I don't train for looks, I train for life. Because
Ooh.
it's coming.
And you know what? I don't know if you've been watching the news, and as a healthcare professional, what really kind of like just hits me like a ton of bricks. There is this estimate by a certain year, and I want to say it's 2034, that XYZ members of the population will be obese. And what we're seeing on the news, you're seeing Ozempic, Nozempic, right? You're seeing all these things. And I have to be honest, 10 years ago, and I'm asthmatic. I got asthma as a result of being exposed to some asbestos. And as an asthmatic, you have to take steroids. In fact, I'm finishing up a dose of steroids right now because of getting sick. But I noticed that when when I'm smaller, my body can fight the change in the weather, right? And I know that to be true. And so 10 years ago, I actually had weight loss surgery, lost like 160 pounds. I think I've gained 90 or 100 of those pounds back. And so I am honest with myself. I get on the scale and I look at the number, right? I look at it on my app because you can't um, monitor what you don't measure. And I'm not just looking at weight, right? Because my app is fancy. I look at my muscle because I'm like, you getting older, you need muscle. So I look at my muscle weight, I look at my water weight because I'm into having that balance, right? So if I'm heavier, but I got more muscle, that means I'm stronger to do the things that I'm trying to do, right? As opposed to carrying more fat. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens the next 5, 10, 15 years. Americans are living but longer, but not healthier.
That part.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, when I look at the powers that be, and I'm gonna just leave it at that, they're about 30 years ahead of us,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're not necessarily predicting the future. They are steering people into the future by their plans, then propaganda and such.
Mm.
So when you read something like that, that's headlined in an article somewhere, if you can choose to believe that and say, well, I guess that's just the way it is and go softly into that good night, or you could say, that won't be me. It may be someone else or another group of people, but it won't be me. Because why would you want to live longer and not have a good quality of life? So now you basically in this vegetative state or this sedentary state, or this state where you feel like, man, I'm dilapidated, I'm decrepit, I can't do the things I want to do for a longer period of time. If that's the case, uh beam me up, Scotty, I'm ready to go home. you
Right.
know I don't want to live an extra 20, 30 years like, oh my God. No, I want to be able to say, if I'm in my 80s, if I'm in my 90s, and God, help me if I get to, my hundreds. I want to be able to say, well, shoot, I can't do what I used to do, but I can still move.
Yes. Well, you know what? My grandfather today is 103. He turned 103 December 2023. So I have longevity in my genetics. And so one of my favorite dances is the percolator. So I want to be able to percolate for as long as I possibly can, because anytime that comes on anywhere, I'm gonna bust out the dance because that is my favorite dance of all times. So I want to make sure that our listening viewing audience knows how to find you. Maybe they want to see if they want to work for you, and I work with you. And the one thing I know as an entrepreneur, every client is not a good client. It has to be some synergies there, right? Because you don't want someone who you tell them to go left and they going right, and it's 30 weeks later and they still going right, and you trying to get them to go left, right? You want individuals that want to have those true gains. I love that name, True Gains.
But yeah, you can find me. You can, first of all, you can call me. Call me. Reach me out at 87.
Call me if you need someone to talk to you.
Come on. Come on. You hear me? Like 872-212-6008. That's 872-212-6008. Call me or text me on that line. I'll get back to you. If I can't get back to you, then I'm probably with a client. I serve the South suburban Chicagoland area, whether online or in person. I currently work out of two facilities. One is in Palos. It's called Heights Cycle. That's at the intersection of Cal-Sag Road in Harlem. It's in the strip mall area. And then another place that I work out of is in Homer Glen, and that's called Heat Shock Fitness. They specialize in infrared saunas for those of you who are into recovery and being able to, get that glow in your skin. And that's off of 159th and Bell Road, and it's in the strip mall area over there. And then for those who really, really, really want me to be in their lives, I do house calls, but that is very, very limited. You know, it's always few spots available, but I'll come to you. I'll bring, whether you're a stretch client, I'll bring my table, or whether you're a training client, and I'll bring my gear. I got a whole gym that I'll unroll out for you. But you could find me at any one of those places. You can also email me at coach@truegainsfitness.com. That's coach@truegainsfitness.com. And True Gains Fitness, you can also find me on Facebook and Instagram.
Put me in, coach. Put me in. Well, listen. And then lastly, where can everybody get their own copy of the book?
The book, you can actually get it on Amazon. You can get it in paperback, or you can get it as a ebook. You can also get it as an ebook through Google Play Store. All right, and if you are a Apple person, that's not.
Team Apple, Team Apple.
You can also get it at the Apple Store as an ebook as well.
I love it. I love it. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. I know that this was I think a lot of times when people see fitness professionals, they think they are all like, you know, but you're yeah, like Hulk smash. But you are definitely a very welcoming spirit. When I met you at the health fair, it was freezing that day in that church we was at. But I was happy to be there, happy to have met you, happy to swap books. I love meeting other authors and reading about your journey because, believe it or not, every conversation, every book helps me move the needle forward in life. And we all need each other. We need each other to survive. I think it's time out for tearing each other apart. We need to build, build, and build, right? See how I threw that in there?
I see what the fun.
Well, thank you so much for your time. And I will hold up my end of the bargain with starting with my 10 minutes on one of those pieces of equipment. Because I know something is waiting on me down there and I gotta go get it. I gotta get it.
Come on. Yes, yes, indeed. And again, thank you for having me on. I really, really appreciate it. And even in meeting you the first time, you had the glow. You still got it now. And I agree with you. Like we're better together than we are apart, right? So we got to continue to push this thing forward and fight the good fight. That's it.
I love it. I love it. Well, everyone, it's been another episode, 52 Authors, 52 Weeks. See you next time.